What's up, Internet? You are watching the Etch Play weekly live show with me, your host this week. My name is Adam Burt, and it is my pleasure to be your guide to another wonderful week in the weird world of video games. I am joined by some great guests today. They're regulars on the show. You probably already know who they are. I'm going to introduce them anyway. First up, we've got Taya. Taya, how is it going? How are you today?
It is going well. I am very excited for our game later.
Yeah, we've got a little bit of a fun one today. We're playing some Marbles on Stream later on in the show, which is interactive. It means that you guys there in the chat are going to be able to basically type in to join in the game that we're playing. Not like control the marbles, but you can enter a marble and see if your marble wins any of the races that we're going to do. But before that, we've got loads of news to get through as well. And after that, we're going to have Dan Thomas live on the show. As it's our 99th episode, we are taking it back to 1999, and we're talking about the Dreamcast, which came out in 1999. And basically, we're going to do a bit of like a retrospective, I guess, on the Dreamcast, talk about what went wrong, because it was obviously this huge fall from grace for Sega, and about our thoughts about it, reflecting on it all these years later, many, many years later. Hello in the chat, who have we got? We've got Medi, we've got Ben Gammon, we've got Pete, we've got Miles, and we've got Steve. Hello guys, thanks for tuning in. We really appreciate you guys being here, especially today, because if there was no one here for the marbles, it would be a little bit awkward. So we, really thankful for you guys tuning in.
99!
No, someone's shouting 99. Okay, yeah, the 99 reference. Okay. You just completely threw me there, and I was like, why is Ty shouting? It's not her bit of the show. You ready to do some news, Ty? Should we do some news?
Yes, that's
cool. Okay, well, we're starting with arguably the biggest story from last week in the world of games, and this is about Google Stadia. And this already feels like it happened a while ago, but since we were last on air, Google have officially announced that they're shutting down Google Stadia. For anyone keeping track, Stadia was launched in 2019, so that's a pretty quick turnaround for a console to launch and be discontinued in. We are chatting about the Dreamcast later, like I say, which also had a very short life as well. But the service simply hasn't attracted enough users to justify its continued existence, despite some pretty huge financial investment from Google. According to many consumers, the impressive cloud streaming tech just didn't really work that well in many places, especially rural parts of North America, and the business model as well of paying for the subscription and then also having to buy individual games specifically for the service put it at odds with how other streaming services work. So if you're familiar with the cloud streaming space, you might know that Nvidia's GeForce Now streams any game that you own already, but you don't have to buy it again, while things like Xbox Cloud have the more Netflix-esque strategy of offering you games from the Game Pass library at no additional cost. Google have already got a reputation for killing off new products as well. After a few years, you know, they've killed a lot of things over the years that they've started, which made many players hesitant to jump in. A bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy, that one, I think, and I don't know how they're going to solve that. Every time they launch something, people are like, this is going to last like 2 years tops. But the service will remain live for players until January 18th, 2023, at which point Google will deliver massive refunds to players, refunding them for any hardware or software that they've bought since launch, which is going to cost them a pretty penny, I imagine, but I guess they can afford it. They are Google. Devs were a bit blindsided by this, it's fair to say, including some who were due to launch games on Stadia this week and in the month ahead. It's not yet clear what this will mean for those studios. Many were obviously hoping to make money on Stadia sales this financial quarter and now won't be able to. Hopefully some of that Google money that they're going to spend making it right with players, they'll also spend making it right with devs, but we just don't know at the minute. There's no clarity around that currently. Some devs as well, with popular Stadia games such as Ubisoft, Bungie and IO Interactive, have publicly committed to exploring ways to let Stadia players continue playing their games on PC. It's not actually entirely clear what that means. It could mean perhaps if you've bought the game on Stadia, they might give you a free copy of it on PC, or it might mean they're developing mechanisms for moving your save game onto your hard drive from Stadia's cloud service, so you can, carry on your playthrough if you buy it again. But this is on like a massive story, obviously, from the world of games, like a major player of sorts, not the biggest, but definitely a big player, kind of bowing out of the cloud streaming race. And Taya, what do you make of this?
Yeah, I think in some ways we're all expecting this to happen in some capacity, but definitely not kind of this quick or this suddenly. I think the fact that obviously a lot of the developers with, like you say, games that were literally launching that week that the announcement came in, they didn't even know that it was going to happen. And that's, I really feel for them. I really do, because like you say, they probably had hopes for the Stadia, hopes for the game of the Stadia. Yeah, like, it's not just a case of just porting, it's porting in quite a different way. I do find it quite interesting that Google is refunding players. I think that's probably a good move on their part, and hopefully will dial down some of the bad will that might have come from a lot of consumers. It is a very interesting move, and I think it's definitely a move that other companies probably wouldn't be able to afford to make.
Yeah.
So fair enough, Google has those funds. It's great that they're willing to use them. I think it's a shame. It's a shame that it is going away, because it's always nice to see a new mover and shaker in the industry. Just to see how that might innovate the whole offering that we have.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, my dog has decided that now is the time to play.
That's okay. Hello, Milo, Tyler's dog. You're doing a little Milo reveal live on the internet.
Milo reveal.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely true, isn't it? Because I think it's kind of forced other people, like would Xbox have launched their cloud streaming service the way they have and so aggressively if it wasn't for the threat of Google Stadia? A lot of companies are considering cloud gaming in a way that they really weren't before. Even, Nintendo do it a lot now as well. Which, would all that have happened if it wasn't for Google? We can't say, but they definitely made an impact. Anything else to say on that, Ty? Should we move on to the next story?
No, I think that's pretty much it. I know I've tried Stadia, so I'm not personally that bothered.
She doesn't care. If you have Stadia, you suck. No, you don't. Our next story then is about Fandom, who you may know as the owner of various fan-powered wiki sites. And they have acquired a number of gaming brands from a company called Red Ventures. So this deal includes sites like GameSpot, Metacritic, GameFAQs, and Giant Bomb, as well as several other media sites, is what I'm trying to say there. The Wall Street Journal has said this deal is valued at approximately $55 million, and it is essentially. It just means that some of the most influential websites in the games press are changing hands yet again, having previously been sold to Red Ventures in the first place only in 2020. That's only 2 years ago. So it does mean some turbulence for popular sites like GameSpot, and it also means we might expect some changes to these sites, probably to add more advertising to try and monetize them more, which obviously most people aren't happy about. It's been a rough few weeks for the games press in general. A couple of sites elsewhere, such as Fanbyte, for example, losing a lot of their staff in mass redundancies. But the games press is a really important and essential part of the games marketing ecosystem, right, Tyre? What do you make of this?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you're completely right. Games marketing is a big beast, and sites are a massive part of that. It's not just for the delivery of news, but some very important critique and investigative journalism.
Yeah.
It's always been a part of the games industry, and even though some fans like to be rude, I think they're very important. And yeah, this whole move is an interesting one. It's scary sometimes to see things being monopolized, is kind of my opinion on it, because then, especially with things like journalism, things like information gathering services, I guess, which is what wikis and stuff are, if it's all owned by the same people, then are we still going to get all the level of personal opinions and things like that?
Yeah,
who knows? I'm not an investigative journalist. I don't know that much about how that works, but it is interesting to see. As a consumer, I'm not a fan of more advertising, but I'm not surprised because it seems to be the way that a lot of things in the web are going. Understandably, there's a lot of money in it, and from the fact that most people are doing it, it probably outweighs the annoyance that some people might feel. Also, ad blocker exists, so.
Can we advocate that on the show? I'm not sure we're allowed to advocate that on the show.
No. I'm not advocating. I'm just saying.
Don't use ad blocker on sites that we built. We're the good guys. Okay then, our final news story for today is all about CD Projekt, who have announced on Twitter that they're working on a whole bunch of games. One of those is apparently a brand new IP known internally as Project Hadar, so that won't be tied into the Witcher or Cyberpunk 2077 universe. We don't know much else about that one other than it's still in a kind of conceptual phase. As for Cyberpunk 2077, that is getting an official sequel. Let me just read the quote to you here. That will prove the full power and potential of the Cyberpunk universe. And that's being developed by CD Projekt Red's new Boston studio. Meanwhile, The Witcher will see a whole new trilogy of games, plus 2 new spin-offs. One being made by the Molasses Flood, who were acquired by CD Projekt last year, and another one being made by an unnamed third-party studio. So that's 5 new Witcher games they've basically announced in one go. The new trilogy of the Witcher games are scheduled over a 6-year span, and they're saying that the second and third games will lean on the tech being developed for the first game, which is codenamed Polaris. Tyre, I know you're a big Witcher fan. How do you feel about there being 5 more Witchers?
A bit overwhelmed, to be honest. That's like 5 more Witchers than I was predicting in my near future. But no, I am excited as a player and a fan of The Witcher. I think it's great that, the IP is quite strong, and you can see that, they definitely believe in it and the possibilities that it can bring. I'm very intrigued by the multiplayer Witcher game, because I would like to, I just wonder, is it going to be like a MMORPG, or is it going to be more like a co-op or a PvP? Like, there's so many different ways that you can do multiplayer. It does concern me a little bit that they've promised 3 Witcher-sized games in 6 years. Considering there is quite a bit of history with CD Projekt Red and Crunch, and also, people are still quite peed off about the fact that Cyberpunk took quite a while to come out, and the response wasn't as great in terms of things like bugs and content and all of that. So it does concern me a little, but they're promising this very tight window to release very large games, and I really do hope that they've planned somehow to make sure that isn't going to cause crunch. We shall see, I suppose. And sorry.
No, you go ahead, finish what you're saying.
I remember now. Something about Cyberpunk. It is a very rich, again, IP. So it'd be interesting what they what they do in a new one. I haven't played the first one, so
nice.
There you go.
I think it's it strikes me as a mistake, like, to announce all these games so far in advance, because I feel like this is the exact thing that happened with Cyberpunk. They announced it years before it came out, and then when it did come out, people were like, 7 years ago you said it would have this in it, and it doesn't. And they're like, oh yeah, like, things changed a lot in that, like, decade we took to build this, which I think was ultimately, harmful to that game's marketing. But obviously they see some value in announcing this. I guess it does get investors psyched to think about all their sweet returns they'll be having. Polaris, which is the first of the new Witcher trilogy, is also set to be the first major release from CD Projekt that's built on Unreal Engine. The company announced in March that it was switching to Epic's engine because in the past we spent a lot of resources and energy to evolve and adapt Red Engine, that was their previous engine, with every subsequent game release. And apparently most of these upcoming games will reportedly feature multiplayer of some kind, which is also an exciting step for them to take, because obviously very single player focused so far.
Very interesting. The cool thing with it as well is something I read on Twitter, I can't remember who said this now, is that all of these game announcements have code names related to stars. Mm-hmm. And all of these stars, someone did some digging, are parts of specific constellations, the bear constellation and the dog/wolf constellation, which I thought was an interesting tidbit.
I don't understand. What's the conspiracy theory here? there's
There is
going to
a
be
conspiracy
loads of
theory.
bears and dogs in the game. Is that what we're saying?
I just think it's interesting because those are both schools of witches in
Okay.
the Witcher IP. Even though I guess Cyberpunk isn't part of the Witcher world, or is it?
Yeah, or is it?
This whole like Dragon Age, Mass Effect, Witcher's Witch, etc. But no, I thought it was a fun thing that people were reading into.
Okay,
I wonder if it does matter. Maybe it does.
Yeah, look into those constellations, figure out what's going to be in the game. Next up, then, we're switching to our gameplay segment, which means it's time for you guys at home to take over.
Bubbles!
What you'll hopefully see now is a screen of lots of things, to be honest. There's a whole lot of things going on there, which I'll explain in just a second. Before I do, the way this is going to work is when we get into a race, you'll be able to type exclamation mark followed by the word play with no space, and that'll join you into the race, basically. Before I do that, let me just get the webcams back on for me entire so you can see us. We'll be your guides to the wonderful world of marble racing. There we go. So let's pick a race, shall we? Ty, do you want to pick one of these tracks for us to start with?
Oh goodness me, that is a lot of tracks. Let's go for the House of Pain.
The House of Pain, here we go, okay. So we're going to load this up.
Very excited. Oh,
it does. It looks like a pachinko starting here. So Etch plays, marble is in. This is me here. That's in the middle. If you would like to join in the chat, exclamation mark followed by play. Doesn't have to be all caps like Tyre just did, but you can do caps if you want. That's totally up to you. We've got Dan in. We've got Miles. We've got Pete. We've got Medi. We've got Ellie. Hi, Ellie. That is our set of races, it looks like, for this very first one. Should we get started, Tyre? What do you reckon?
Do it. Marbles.
So this game is all about the Twitch integration. There's no way to play it other than with Twitch. So this is an exciting thing for all of us. And straight away, Miles is in the lead. You can see everyone else coming down there. I should have done more. I should have spent more time prepping because I could have made the marbles look nicer, but I did not. They all look basic. Oh, Miles has lost the lead. Ellie's taken the lead.
Ellie! Yes. Oh.
Oh, that's going badly. Dan is running away with it.
He is, closely by Pete.
No. I think Pete's just... Miles, Pete and Dan are all stuck, but Pete's moved on. Here we go. I'm controlling the camera, by the way, so if you see any weird camera angles, that's entirely my fault, and it's nothing to do with the game. Here we go. Oh, Gam's taken a different route and somehow got ahead, but Pete's overtaken him.
Oh no! Oh, those red bits are definitely painful.
Yeah. Miles back near the front of the pack. Dan also has recovered well. Oh! Miles getting very trapped there. Dan's getting bashed around, but he's maintaining his lead. Yeah, I think this one's encased in like a glass tube, so you can't fall off the edge at this point just yet. But you can fall off here.
You can later.
Okay, Dan's got a bit of a lead here. Everyone else is stuck in those whirling things of pain.
Etch play, what are you doing? You're right at the end.
Dan has taken first place.
Dan!
Congratulations, Dan. I mean, Dan's joining this stream afterwards, so he'll be able to celebrate live in front of you in a minute. Second was Ben Gammon, and third was Pete. Me and Medi are at the back of the pack.
You're fighting for last place.
Where am I? Oh, I'm all the way back here. What a joke.
Yeah, I have a feeling you will not be winning any...
Here's Medi. Miles is just finishing. Congratulations, Miles. Me and Medi fight out for who's going to be the worst marble.
Okay, it's just the first time.
Yeah, here we go. looks like Medi's going to take 8th, and I'm going to be stuck in last place, which is annoying because I'm the one running the stream. That's how you know it's not biased, it's not rigged, because I didn't rig it so that I would win. Let's see those final results. Here we go. Dan in first place. Well done, Dan. You've earned yourself a bunch of points. If you watch other people play this game, you can actually, without ever buying it, you can build up a points total across all the different people that you watch on Twitch, which is quite cool. I'm going to press random track. We're going to go straight into another one. How's that sound?
Yeah, go for it.
This next track's totally random. Could be anything. Could be terrible, could be great. Again, you will need to type play to join the race with an exclamation mark in front of it. So get yourselves in.
I do think it's neat that how these games do integrate with Twitch. It makes it a lot of fun. A lot of games do it nowadays, don't they?
Yeah. And I think we played As Dusk Falls before, which had the kind of Twitch chooses the outcomes, and that was good fun as well. I think it's a great trend in game. I think there's more games that you can control on Twitch.
Yes.
Right.
I like... oh, sorry. No, go.
Well, I was just going to read out the list of people that we've got. Who have we got in here? We've got me, we've got you, we've got Medi, we've got Gammon again, Steve's still here, Dan's here, Miles is here, and Ellie is in. We've lost Pete, but Pete might be busy. So let's just press start and go.
Go.
Ellie in the chat is saying that the cult of apparently the Cult of the Lamb Twitch integration is good. What's the Cult of the Lamb one?
So in it, you Twitch viewers can pick what they're like. They can be in the game as a villager or a cultist,
right?
And you can pick what your villager looks like, and I think it's really, really cool.
That does.
I only know because someone I watched played a game and they couldn't make the Twitch integration work, so they just faked it with a straw poll.
Okay,
right, how are we looking?
I'm out in front on this one.
Again. Oh no, Dan's gone right at the end.
This track, this is made by the same person who made the last one, I think. It's the same messed up, swirling little thingies. There is actually quite a lot of track variety in here. A lot of the tracks are wildly different. So we'll do some more random ones and see if we get some more fun ones in a minute. Pete's livid in the chat that he missed out on joining this race. Pete, you got to be paying attention, man. You got to be watching at all times. Oh, this is one got to jump.
Oh, I'm so scared.
Oh, that was scary.
That was so scary.
Wonder what everyone else is doing. Steve's up here, taking the long way around. I'm close behind. Here comes Ben Gammon.
Miles is at the back. What happened, Miles?
Ben Gammon's got some... Ben Gammon... Oh, Ben Gammon's missed the finish altogether!
He's just dead.
He's been...
No.
People have been falling off the track left, right and centre. No one's making it. Everyone's fallen off.
Oh, no.
Is this one even finishable? All the marbles just fall off.
Ellie!
Ellie's made it. Where's Miles? Okay, Miles could still make it. Miles is our last chance.
Come on, Miles.
Here comes Miles.
No.
And he's missed it.
Ellie not only has won, but has survived.
Congratulations, Ellie. And, well, yeah, I mean, Ellie, not only did you win, you're the only person who didn't careen off into the vast nothingness of space. So congratulations on that. Well done. Another random one?
Yes.
We'll do one more random one, and then we'll let the chat pick from the list, so we can show them the track list.
Plan. This is fun.
Yeah, it is good fun, isn't it? There's no sound though, is there? Or if it is, it's very low. So I'm going to put the show music back on. Just nice and quietly. Ooh, look at this. We've got a spooky one. It's October and it's time to get spooky.
Yeah. Ooh, spooky. Oh, there's some spooky music I can hear from somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know how that was working. But it looks like we've got a bunch of people in here. We've got Pete's back in. He's livid to have missed out on that last one. Tyre, me, basically the whole crew again. Everyone's ready to go. Let's do it. I love that we got this spooky season 1.
That's awesome. I didn't know that was a possibility.
So yeah, I mean, I'm glad we're getting to showcase some of the creativity. Like, you can do anything in the track builder for this, basically.
That is very cool.
Oh, everyone's in the cauldron. I can't really see what's going on.
Dark?
I think we're in the dark. Yeah.
Are we all just not moving?
It might have. I think it froze briefly there. I think the cauldron physics were too much for my computer to handle. But we've escaped the cauldron.
Okay, we're all pretty close together at the moment.
Yeah.
Medi!
Oh, watch out for those. What are those? Some sort of witch spells or goblins? I don't know.
I don't know. Ghosts?
Oh. There's too many particles. Oh, Miles is in some sort of bubble. Where's Miles?
Ooh. He's just.
I don't know if is this good for Miles, or is Miles basically out of the race?
I mean, it says he's first.
Oh.
So I think everyone's doing the bubble.
No, I think if you hit the bubbles, you're out. The bubbles get you.
Oh,
you're dead.
No! Oh, Miles.
Which means our current leader is Ben Gammon.
Benji. Followed by Ellie, followed by Medi. Come on, Medi. You can dead.
Oh,
you can
big
dead.
bounce.
I was reading chat. You can do it.
Into the spooky attic.
That is very spooky.
So if you see those bubble things, you don't want to hit a bubble, because those bubbles are bad.
Yeah, they're going to get you. It feels a bit like we're playing Phasmophobia, but with marbles.
What? How is this track working?
I don't know, they're just floating.
They're just invisible pieces. Oh, now we're in a wall.
Oh, yeah.
It's a ghost track.
A single candle. That's terrifying.
But Ben Gammon's maintaining his lead.
Oh, why are we floating?
I don't know. Ghosts are doing it, I think. Pete has now apparently taken the lead. Doesn't look like he's in the lead, but the game seems to think that he is. Oh.
Pete, are you hacking the game somehow?
Here's Ellie.
It's very confusing because it's like...
Yeah, you can't really tell what's going on. It's too spooky.
No. This is way too spooky.
Here's Ty.
You just don't know...
Oh, we're going downstairs. Oh, okay. I can kind of see this bit. Look, this bit's got like a glowy green.
Yeah, that's very nice. Nice roaring fire.
Oh, is this a finish? I think we're getting near the finish. And Medi's out in front. Medi's done it.
Hey. It is scary how underpowered Adam's computer is.
Is that what they're saying in the chat? That my computer's the real horror story here, is it?
I think Dan is saying he's going to buy you a new work computer.
Oh, thanks, Dan. Medi takes the lead on that one. Congratulations. Medi, Tyre in second, and Ellie in third. Good race season for Ellie. Let's have a look at the race menu.
If pick one.
It looks like it's frozen. So Dan was right. My computer sucks.
What's your favourite kind of marble? Okay, then.
My favourite kind of marble.
Marble small talk.
So you can see the list here. I think if you type exclamation mark followed by vote with a number, the numbers that you see next to these names, you'll be able to vote for one of these wraps, okay? So
ooh.
Type in chat which one you'd like to see. You have to type exclamation mark vote and then the number. There you go. Some of you have got it. If you all vote for a different one, then there's going to be no clear winner. Tyre, you break. Okay, endurance test has the most votes now.
Yes, there you go.
Oh, speed run also. Okay, do you want speed run or endurance test? Miles is back in speed run. I think we're saying speed run is the winner. Is that right? Let's do it. This is our last race for the day. So when it loads, make sure you get in with exclamation mark play in just a second. It's time. Exclamation mark play when you're ready. Join the race. And this one's for all the marbles. See what I did there?
Yes.
Right, who have we got? We've got Ellie in the race. We've got Tyre in the race. We've got Medi in the race. We've got Gam, Egg and Chips in the race. Mars is in the race. Steve's in the race.
Where's Pete? Pete!
Dan's in. Where are you, Pete? I know that you're going to be sad if you miss it.
Pete! You're listening to this. There we go.
There he is. He's got him. Right, okay, here we go. Who knows what awaits us on speedrun? I'm assuming it's going to be a very quick track.
Yeah.
Probably quicker than my computer can handle, so it's going to look like a sweet PowerPoint.
Pete, you're in. You're fine.
Okay, here we go. Straight into a bowl. It's our first obstacle. I'm out in front.
Very shiny.
Yeah, it is quite shiny, isn't it? I'm surprised my computer can handle those reflections. It's like ray tracing right there.
Oh, don't jinx it. I can hear some audio artifacts. I don't know where they're coming from.
Me and you are circling the drain. Steve's here at the back.
Oh, am I first for now?
Looks like you are. Me and you are out in front.
Stay back, stay back.
I think the bottom of that is, yeah, you can see the others coming down behind us now. Here we go. Looks like there's speed boosts, a few of those things, so we've got to look out for those. Oh, the ending's down here already. I can already see where it is.
Oh, what's that green thing? Is that separate? Oh no,
Yeah,
not these things. Oh no, I thought there was something else.
That was fine.
Oh man,
I've taken the lead.
So close. So close and yet so far.
Yeah, well, I can't even see where you've gone now. Where are you?
No, I'm somewhere else. I'm just going round and round.
There we go. You're just behind me again now. But we're taking different routes. Who will be quickest?
I don't think I'm going to catch up.
Where's the rest of the field? Oh, here they come.
Oh, there we go. That's where the action is. They're very close to each other.
Oh. Okay, there's a
dramatic
finale. Please fall straight down. Fall straight down. Yes.
There you go.
Tyre comes in second. And here comes Miles into the bowl looking for bronze medal.
Oh, there's lots of them there.
Oh, I think Dan's taken it.
Dan!
Medi's in the chat saying, we need another map, this one was bad. Has Pete finished? Oh, yeah, Pete's just finished. There's the final results for that one. I'll tell you what we'll do. As that one, people are saying they want to do one more. Tyre, I know you've got to go, and Dan's got to join the show to join us for some Dreamcast chat. So what I might do is let you go, and then Dan can come in. Dan will be here for a race, and then we'll jump into the Dreamcast chat after that. Sound good?
Sounds good. I'll still be in the chat with my marble.
Yeah, okay. Get yourselves onto the chat and get ready to vote for the next one. And we'll tell you very soon, Tyre. Thank you. I'm just loading the track list again. And here comes Dan as well. Dan's just joining us. Right, you can see the list now, so you can vote. Endurance test had votes last time. That was number 8. You could vote for that one this time. It's up to you what you want to choose.
We get to influence it more if I'm now on the stream.
I guess so. You can try and sway the people. I'm not seeing your camera, Dan, at the minute to put you on the show, but people can hear you at home, so that's something. Can you see your camera?
I can see my camera and your camera.
Okay. Tell you what, I'll I'll just turn you off for a bit and the viewers can see me. Hi! Right. Endurance test has the most votes. It's happening. It's our final race for the day. So make sure you get yourselves in for this one. It is exclamation mark followed by the word play. We've got Pete in here, we've got Gam, we've got Miles, we've got Medi. Ellie's joined. Is that everyone? Yeah, he did almost miss it. What do you reckon, Dan? Is this our list? Dan? I think I might have lost Dan. Okay, let's do it. Let's have some marbles. Here we go. Endurance test. And we start with a funnel. Classic. Circling. Steve went to the bathroom and missed the start. I apologise, Steve. Looks like Dan, even though he's fallen off the Discord call, is still winning the marbles. He's way out in front. But Ty is now hunting him down. Here comes Dan. Tyre in pursuit. Lots of different tracks here. Could go one of several ways. Both Tyre and Dan take this route. Oh, we're in a wall. And we've hit these red things. What are these red things called? What should we call these? Spinners? But it means the pack are catching up fast. Dan is running out of runway here as the leader. But he does get away.
Am I leading?
You are in the lead, Dan.
So Gam's edging me out.
Yeah, Gammon's hot on the tail. It's hard to tell when they're in a spiral. I'm like, which point of the spiral is actually in the lead?
The list on the side is...
But I think the list on the side is also based to proximity to the finish rather than like whether it's on the track.
Deceptive.
Yeah. But you are in close combat here with Gam.
It's unfortunate that Pete is dead last.
Is that unfortunate or is that great?
I mean, for me, that's great. He and I have a long history of feuding on all aspects of athleticism and real sport like this.
Well, here's the finale, and Gam has taken it at the final corner.
Hit to the post.
It's got Medi coming in 4th. Miles in 5th. Here comes Ellie in 6th. And Pete does make it in 7th, so he's not quite last. Final results. There are your winners for today. Thank you for watching. And thank you for playing as well. You guys have made that a lot of fun. I really appreciate that. Dan, I still can't see your camera, but I think we're just going to roll with it because I don't have much choice.
Good old Discord never fails.
Yeah, and I've actually just broken my own camera live on stream, so that's another win for technicals there. Bear with me, chat. Bear with me. Let's turn that off, and then let's at least get back to a point where you can see me. Not bad. But you can see Cyberpunk still. Now you can see me and no Cyberpunk, and you can't see Dan. Dan is a swirling face. But that's okay. We are going to be talking about the Dreamcast. It's our 99th show, we're almost at 100, and we thought we'd throw it back to 1999, which is a very long time ago. Some of you might not even have been, born, I guess, depending on how young you are. But we're going to talk about the Dreamcast, which is a console that some people love, a lot of people didn't love, and that's what we're going to be discussing. Dan, when you're here, just stay. It's fine. We don't need your camera.
No, I can't hear anything. Then I've just restarted Discord.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, let me turn you off and turn this on because it's time to chat Dreamcast.
Yeah.
So inspired by Stadia's demise and the theme, of course, which is 99, we're looking back at the Dreamcast, and if you didn't know, in the United States it launched on the 9th of the 9th, 1999, all the 9s. And for those of you who don't know about the console, some people are actually too young to know, like I say, it was the first console released in the so-called 6th generation of video game consoles, preceding Sony's PlayStation 2, the GameCube, and Microsoft's Xbox. Many of its games were considered groundbreaking, including Crazy Taxi, Jet Set Radio, Shenmue, Sonic Adventure, and Phantasy Star Online. And the Dreamcast was actually the first console to include a built-in modular modem for internet access and online play. And many reviewers considered the Dreamcast kind of ahead of its time in some regards. The launch was actually a pretty big success in the States, but after a relatively rapid decline, it was officially discontinued on March 31st, 2001, although it did continue to receive some game releases for a little while after that. The death of the Dreamcast was a big blow to Sega, who haven't made a console since, and instead have become entirely software-focused. And we're asking the question, what happened, and what can we learn from this epic failure? And failure can be one of life's greatest teachers, can't it? So we thought we'd delve into that today. Before we get into that too far, Dan, you are old, or should I say mature? You've probably got a better recollection. Like, you were around when Sega were a console maker at the height of their powers. Do you have any thoughts from you about what Sega were like before the Dreamcast?
Yeah, sure. So, I was, as it were, back then, I was very much Team Blue. I was a Sega fanboy, and the console wars were rife even back then. Obviously, it was Nintendo versus Sega. Nintendo kind of launched the NES, and they were the only kid on the block. And then, Sega came out with the Master System, and from there it became all about Nintendo versus Sega, Mario versus Sonic, and it was great fun. I can even remember buying magazines. Not leaning into this old rumor.
I even used to read things on paper.
Paper-based magazine. I can vividly remember it, like in these kind of like fan magazines and stuff. You get fan art sent in, not just blasted on Twitter. You used to draw your picture with crayons, put it in an envelope, and send it in. And I can remember reading one episode of whatever the Sega magazine of the time was, and I just remember a really gruesome picture that somebody had drawn with their crayons of Sonic with a ninja sword cutting Mario's belly off with a whole load of blood and explosions. So that was kind of how into these platform wars people were at the time. I was a big Sega fan. They kind of came out the gates, kick in with Sonic, and you kind of chose your camp, and I was Team Sega.
I mean, Sonic fans are disgusting. That's the takeaway that I'm getting from that.
Yeah, sure.
Which I already knew. It's not even a takeaway. I knew that in my bones.
Yeah, sure.
Shout out to Ben Joy, Sonic's biggest fan. And I mean, you were obviously a fan, but is it fair to say that as we got towards the Dreamcast, there was a string of consoles there that maybe weren't. They weren't good, but they were flops commercially, right?
It was an uphill battle from like the Mega Drive or the Genesis. Like that was the big hit, and then from there, Mega CD, which was kind of like a bolt on to the Sega Genesis, that was supposedly allow for these kind of like video quality experiences, which was a thing at the time, and never really played out. Then we had the Sega Saturn, which again I can remember that launching, and it literally was called the Sega Saturn, and they're like the proof of concept that they released. It was like a circular console. It looked very cool, and of course when it hit the market, it was a big square box.
It was disgusting.
And and that was like. I never had a Saturn. I was always a generation behind in most of my console acquisitions, but I can remember like wanting one, and Sega Rally was, I think, kind of like the poster child. But the Saturn never really got traction. And then that brought us to the Dreamcast, which again it was a good console, and I did get one of those. But I think it was just really badly timed. Really, you kind of had you were not that far behind kind of the N64, but also Sony had the PlayStation on the horizon, and it just kind of fell in a bit of a flat spot. And I think that from what I recall and what I've read, it's like the initial sales were okay. But it didn't maintain them. Like people got too excited about the PlayStation, and it kind of declined rapidly. And it was. As you said, there was rage quit time for Sega at that point.
We are going to cover that in more detail, but the first thing that I want to talk about is that kind of reputation factor and how sometimes it can have a really big impact on like how well you can sell. Because obviously, we're the marketing guys. We're always looking at things from like a marketing angle, and despite being a well-respected console maker at one point. You said it yourself, the Saturn wasn't really a success. In fact, a number of their consoles had that kind of mixed reaction beforehand. And developers in particular maybe felt a little bit burned by Sega in terms of, was it worth developing things for this? Because they didn't sell very well, it was hard to develop for them. So in a sense, it almost didn't matter whether the Dreamcast was any good or how easy it was going to be to make games for. A lot of people adopted a kind of wait-and-see mindset, which would have ultimately been really harmful to the sales. And I think Stadia, actually, from our new segment today, suffered from a version of this that we talked about. People really didn't trust Google to not drop this or to make it a success. And similarly, a lot of people didn't trust Sega to make a console that devs would love, that would have a high-quality game library, and that would, not be this kind of mixed hodgepodge of things and a bit of a mixed bag. Do you have any thoughts, Dan, about how reputation can maybe be a hugely significant factor when marketing anything, like not necessarily just consoles? Does the market usually remember if you've screwed things up in the past?
I think it is an interesting question, and I would say maybe we are in an evolved era too. So if you were to answer that now, I think people are a little bit more forgiving or excited at the prospect of a redemption arc, and seems to be happening more these days. But at the time, like you say, perhaps having it on both sides, both in terms of content, maybe creating a bit too much friction. I know there was like they fell out of bed with EA. There was no EA titles because I think EA were playing hardball. That I think they wanted to be the dominant sports title, and Sega were having none of it, and seemingly EA were justified in their stance there, and I think that hurt them with no Madden and no FIFA and things like that on the console. So that's like I guess that's reputation from a content perspective, and then from the consumer side of things, they weren't perhaps in the strongest position from an audience perspective. And maybe weren't as sympathetic to that in their marketing and say their kind of content engagement.
The marketing wasn't Dreamcast. We're good now. But it did come out, and like you said, almost against the odds. It's kind of amazing. Like it arguably has the strongest launch lineup of any games console ever released, led of course by rather brilliant Soul Calibur, which I think the folks at home saw a clip of just a minute ago. It's kind of quirky, and it's got the weird controller, and it's $199 in North America. Another 99 for you there. And despite the reputation, it was a big hit initially, like you say. By the end of 1999, it had 31% of the market share there, which is not a leader, but not a bad position by any means, and was very good compared to where they'd been at times with previous Sega systems. They reached 1 million units sold quicker than the PlayStation 1, which at the time was the most successful console that had ever been released. But the PlayStation did remain the dominant force in the marketplace, and at that point, at the tail end of 1999, PlayStation or Sony had 60% of the market share. The N64, which did really well in the mid-90s, was kind of really starting to trail off in third place at this point. But the competition was one of the key reasons why the Dreamcast failed, and you alluded to this as well. A bit ironically, given the name of the Dreamcast, I would say, they struggled to compete with the dream of what the PlayStation 2 would be, which was scheduled to come out a year later in America and Europe. So there were a few things the PS2 had going for it as well, to put it lightly. A huge existing marketplace advantage, obviously. It was going to support DVDs and also have backwards compatibility for PlayStation 1 games. But in addition to that, there was this real perception put out there by Sony, obviously, that the PS2 was going to be a lot more advanced than it actually ended up being. They really sold the dream. The console was going to be photorealistic. It was going to convey emotions like never before. It was going to render every other gaming platform obsolete. And not all of that was strictly true, but from a marketing perspective, it was absolute dynamite. It really worked. And it, of course, does help that the PlayStation 2, well, maybe not all of those things, was an incredibly good console. Easily one of the best consoles ever made. Great library of games. What do you remember, Dan, about the kind of PlayStation 2 launch that kind of defined this era?
Yeah, I think PlayStation still had the charming newcomer to it as well. Like we'd had 10, 15 years of a two-horse race, Sega and Nintendo. And so, and Sony, like even beyond games, Sony were on fire at this point. You had their TVs were getting extremely renowned, and that was, I think that was around the time of the Vio brand as well, which was for their hardware and laptops and things like that, which was just, that was kind of pre-Apple in terms of like the premium option. So they just had such a strong brand. They were the newcomer to the market. As you said, the PS1 had done extremely well, and yeah, they were positioning the PS2 with all the grand ambitions that every generation of consoles latches onto, the greatest ever graphical fidelity we've ever seen, and all these kinds of things.
Yeah.
And I think the Dreamcast was tired. The brand was exhausted, and it was a done deal for the PS2. Didn't really have a lot of competition to contend with.
Yeah. And there were plenty of non-marketing factors involved in Dreamcast demise. One of those was a high production cost compared to, for example, a PlayStation 2. And rather than being able to recoup that cost, it was actually really aggressively priced. Like it was a real bargain, really, when it came out. And they discounted it further in most territories when sales started to slow after that launch period. And discounts are a really tricky one, aren't they? Because I think consumers obviously love them. They love getting things for cheap, but only up to a point. Like if you discount something too much, it can actually start to negatively impact people's perception of how good your product is. And mobile phones are like a great example of this that's modern day, that's happening right now every year. The more an average customer spends on a phone, the better they believe and feel that it is, even if the specs are worse than something cheaper. With the way things are now economically and with inflation, pricing is again a hot topic in the world of games as well. What do you think, Dan, from a marketing perspective? When's the right time to discount, and by how much? Is there a floor that you shouldn't go below when it comes to discounting?
I think there is. I don't think there's an exact science to it, but there is definitely method to it, and you want. I think, like you say, consumers love a discount, and your discounted. I think this was possibly on the Simon Carlos newsletter for games. Your discounted sales will outperform your non-discounted sales in terms of revenue. So even though you're making less per copy, you're going to sell that many more copies that it's worthwhile. But what you want to be mindful of is the depth of discount, as you say. And I think you can apply this to pretty much any product. Is you want to avoid cutting too deep as long as you possibly can. So,
yeah.
And as you say, as soon as, and especially nowadays when you've got trackers and you can look up, what's the most this has ever been discounted. So you put a discount. Well, that's not as cheap as it's ever been. I'm not gonna buy it. So yeah, you want to be very tactical with your discounts, and absolutely can have an impact. And as you say, it will greatly be. There is a great correlation between the lowest possible price and the perceived value of the product. So that's the argument for keeping it. And if you're at the point where you're on the back foot and you're having to discount to maintain sales velocity, you're in. That's an indicator that you're towards the end of your product life cycle.
It's a death spiral. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I should have had a glass of water before the show. So the games
It's
on the
all about
Dreamcast.
marbles excitement.
Yeah, I know. I was like cheering marbles on. I got a frog in my throat. We mentioned the games on the Dreamcast. We've talked about a few of them as well. They were good, proper good video games. But there is something about them that I think is interesting as kind of a trend. And that is that they were all really good translations of the arcade. And when you think about it, almost any of them, with a couple of exceptions, would have been more at home in an arcade environment. Think about things like Crazy Taxi and Virtua. I mean, a lot of them did come from the arcade, or had arcade parallels, and that is cool in a way. But it was also quite unfortunate for Sega from a timing perspective, because the kind of zeitgeist at the time was really moving away from the arcade and into deep experiences you had in your home over many, many hours. People didn't want to play half an hour of Crazy Taxi. They wanted to play hours of Metal Gear Solids, Final Fantasies, Resident Evils, those kind of games. So even though the games were good, they just weren't necessarily the games people wanted. And Dan, I know that you hate it when someone says, just make a good game. And this is kind of an example of that of sorts, right? Like, it's more than just making a great game. You've got to make games that people have a real appetite for, and then you've got to also communicate that and market it effectively, right? What do you make of it?
Yeah, absolutely, and that is a really good point. The kind of the type of game, and as you say, and from a nostalgia perspective as well, the dream was always you'd go to the arcade and you'd be like, oh, just can you imagine if we could have this quality of game at home? Because we were at home playing on our ZX Spectrums and Commodore 64s, and then we're going to the arcades and playing on these fantastic high fidelity experiences. But the arcade experience was designed around getting more money out of you. So you think in terms of game design nowadays, the design of a game is to get you to stay sat in front of that game as long as possible. You say we'll make it easier for you. You will, we'll respawn and regenerate you, and all that. We no longer have this concept of lives. Whereas, if you're achieving that quality bar of this is what it's like at the arcade, and you've got those bite-sized 10p's worth of game experience, and then you're comparing that to the Sony offering, which, as you say, is hours of gameplay, high fidelity, and all these kinds of things. It's a different proposition, and I think you're absolutely right. That's kind of quite a significant transitionary period in how we consumed games in the home.
Yeah. And our last question, just as a kind of fun thought experiment, and I did warn you I was going to ask this, so you might have done some thinking beforehand. If not, we'll see what you say off the spot.
Yes, I definitely did all my homework.
On the spot, off the cuff. Let's say that you, Dan, were working in marketing for the Dreamcast team in 1999. What could they have done differently? Was there any way to save it, or was it just bad luck? What would you have done?
I think there was definitely... there was a logistics challenge, and I think the Dreamcast launched maybe a good year or more in Japan before we saw it in the States, and I think even later in Europe. So if there is in any way that could have been a more of a global rollout or even a condensed timescale, I think they would have had, because the difference between the N64. That was kind of who their main competitor was for the previous 10 years. So I think that was perhaps a better opportunity than going up against the PS1. So time to market would have been a factor. It wasn't really a marketing concern, but obviously they could have had some influence there. Again, content, I think, exactly as you were just highlighting, the types of games experience, and obviously this was way before I was, way before I'm not that old, before I was sort of particularly tuned into the ebbs and flows of the industry and content sourcing and publishing and all those kinds of things. But maybe rather than just trying to iterate on the kind of cutesy family short play experiences, and perhaps a little bit more exploration into those deeper experiences, and some of the content side of things would have been a big influence there, and I just think the messaging at the time was perhaps a little bit too arrogant, maybe just something that's not quite as literal as you suggested earlier. It's good, whatever you said, but just something, something that didn't have quite so much arrogance to it, and maybe explored a new ways to play and things like that.
Well, Dan, I appreciate your time, even though we couldn't get your camera working. And you at home, I appreciate...
Probably for the best.
Yeah, he was naked that whole time. Yeah, you at home as well. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you, and if you want to appreciate us, you can follow us here on Twitch by pressing the purple button underneath, or if you're watching us on YouTube, you can subscribe to our channel so you get notified when we launch new videos, including catch-ups for the live show, and also other things as well. Halloween is coming up, and we've got a bunch of Halloween videos that we're going to do as well, so that'll be lots of fun. If you like the news segment, we do a roundup every week on etchuk.com/play. That's where our blog lives, and there's going to be some news and views and opinions from the whole play team there tomorrow, every Friday. So check that out as well. And we'll be back next week. Ben Joy will be your host for our 100th show. And I don't know what we're going to do. Maybe nothing. We might just pretend it's not our birthday. But if we think of any good ideas, we'll try and do them. We'll try and have some fun next week. Dan, you wanted to say something?
No, I'm just excited for episode 100. And,
okay, you're just making a noise.
Thank you, Adam, for hosting.
That is okay. This has been the Etch Play Weekly Live Show, and we will see you next time. Take care of yourselves. Bye.
Bye-bye. That was one too many games of marbles. I'm late for my meeting.